Hey guys, Giovanna here. On a dark, gloomy day, thank goodness for camera light adjustment because it's so dark in my apartment today, even with all the shades open. So I'm sitting here on the couch with my little Tubby. That's my cat. Yeah, that's his favorite spot to be. He loves to be anywhere that is glued to me. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about a topic that it really hovers around a lot when I talk to people about relationships, in particular women, but this happens with guys too. And that is this concept of I lost myself in that relationship, right? I lost who I was. I became someone different. And I wanted to break this down for you guys because there's this enigma around that. It's like, well, how does that even happen? You know, how do you, and people that doesn't happen to, when you say it to them, they're like, I don't get it. What does that mean? So first of all, from a spiritual perspective, I lost myself is funny, right? Because from a spiritual perspective, you were never lost. In fact, you, who you are, is essential, is at your core. The you with a capital Y, the truth of who you are, the truth with a capital T, right? Like that spiritual soul level depth of who you are, which is not a human, that never got lost. So that's the first bit, right? And it sounds a little maybe out there and airy fairy to some of you, but that's the piece that if we can hang on to, we'll never lose ourselves again. The other side of this, the very human side of it, is that each of us carries with us a certain style of attachment, a certain way that we attach to other people. And depending on your upbringing, depending on what's called attachment trauma or relational trauma that you experienced as a child, right, before the age of 7, this is how we develop our attachment style. So there's 3 different attachment styles. There's secure attachment, which unfortunately a very low percentage of the population is. There's anxious attachment, which we're going to break down today. And there's avoidant attachment style, which is also anxious, but it reacts in an avoidant way. So here's what it looks like. If you have anxious attachment, this is often where the term I've lost myself in this relationship starts to trickle out, because the reason that if you are an anxious attached style that you lose yourself in relationship is because there is this fear of losing the other person. There's a fear that you'll be abandoned, you'll be rejected, that somehow you'll end up out in the dark and the cold. And so you hang on and you alter who you are often. You let go of hobbies and things that were important to you. You put all the needs of the other person ahead of yours. You put all the needs of the relationship ahead of yours, and your needs become not even secondary. They're last on the list. And eventually, you know, for some people, they can start getting resentful of this. And that starts to cause a bit of rupture, or you don't even notice it's happening until it's too late. Or, and unfortunately this happens a lot, you've lost so much of who you are that your partner doesn't even recognize you anymore. And so often the very thing that you are guarding against in this reaction, the very thing that you're guarding against, which is being abandoned and rejected, ends up happening. It ends up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. Does this resonate with any of you, right? Have you done this? Have you been so afraid to lose the other person that you hang on so tight that you manifest that anyway? Now, the other side is avoidant. And this is the tricky side, because unfortunately, these two types, they attract each other. This is the rub. I think this is where we're called to do the really deep work. But the avoidant attachment style has also had some form of attachment injury or trauma. Theirs looks a little different. It's less about abandonment and neglect, and it's a little more about child parenting, right? Where there's a role reversal, where the child has to take care of the parents' needs emotionally or physically. Often it'll happen with also a bit of form of neglect, but there's scapegoating involved, right? And so what happens with this particular person is there's been too much enmeshment, too much involvement, where the child is too enmeshed with the parent And so it's suffocating, and that's how they lose themselves, right? Or they misidentify with themselves. And then there's that manifests into an avoidance style. And so avoidance styles kind of look like what we talked about last week when I talked about breadcrumbing, or earlier this week rather, which was they push away, right? They give you breadcrumbs. They don't want to get close. In fact, being too close, they want it. They so want it, but they get close and then it freaks them out and they push you away. And they are called an avoidant attachment style. So does this sound familiar to you? Have you experienced this yourself, or have you been in a relationship with someone who gets super, super close with you and then it's somehow it's threatening or it's suffocating or it's too much and they push you away? And then if you are the anxious type, how do you react to that, right? What do you do, right? It triggers that anxious attachment style and you act more fearful or more clingy or more whatever, right? Often these people will be labeled needy. You guys already know my mantra. Having needs does not make you needy, okay? Don't let anyone tell you that. However, there is a way in which you can be needy because it's coming from fear. And these two types, they just bounce off each other. And it's very, very common, in fact, too common, that these types attract each other. And this is what causes a lot of strife in relationships. So if you are the type of person, or if you are a person, and hands up, that's been me in the past, who has said, I've totally lost myself in this relationship, it's happening because you are probably an anxious attachment style, although avoidance experiences this as well. But you're losing touch with your own needs and you are not focusing on what's important in the relationship, which is what's important in every relationship, which is the relationship you have to yourself. There's very likely a lot of this attachment style that's rearing its ugly head, that's acting up. And guess what? You don't even know, because no one's ever taught us this. We didn't know about this growing up. This attachment style is being played out by your inner child, which is an unconscious part of you. Some people call it the ego. It's there to try to protect you, but what it's doing is it's sabotaging all of your efforts to have, give, and receive love. So if this intrigues you, excuse me, if you are listening to this going, holy crap, that's me. I've totally done that in the past. I'm doing that now in my relationship. I need to figure this out. Then I highly recommend two things. One is a book, which totally changed my life. The book is called, aptly, Attached. It's in this book that I learned and received help. And ultimately, part of my program is based on the research and the content in that book. It's called Attached, and you could find it on my website under the resources tab, which is in the top right-hand corner. It's a tiny little black bar. It says resources. You can click there and actually see all the book titles that I recommend. They are affiliate links, so we do get a little something for the referral. So if you're not comfortable with that, please search it up on Amazon. No worries. But that's where you'll find the book Attached, along with the other books that I used to help me develop my program. So the second thing I want to recommend is check out the program. It's called Lovesick to Love Healed. It starts November 20th. And we are going to be diving into all of this stuff, and not just diving into it from a brainy perspective, right? But how do we heal from this? What do we do? How do we address this? How do we truly and practically put this amazing information and science to work in our lives so we can have the fulfillment that we crave, which is to be in a healthy relationship that feels safe and that feels loving and nurturing and reciprocal, and one that hopefully will stand the test of time, right? So if this is you and if this resonates, go on over to giovannakaposa.com. If you're watching this on Instagram, there is a link in my bio. You can just click on that for Lovesick to Love Healed. Find out more about the program. It is an application-only program, right? So it's not for everyone. And so if you are tweaked and maybe you're interested, then you and I need to have a conversation first and see if we're a fit. Just see if you actually have a fit for the program. And if not, there might be something else that I recommend for you. But go on over there. You can click through to Let's Talk and we can arrange a conversation and see if it's for you. And if this resonated for you at all and lit a light bulb or something, please recommend this to a friend, pass on this video, let them know they're not alone. and that there's a way that they can get help. Love you guys.